Do you have a problem with self-sabotaging? Every time you try to level up or become more, you always tear yourself back down. This was my problem for a long time, and I want to be the first to tell you that it's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're undisciplined. It's because you're living from your past self rather than the self you're becoming. Let me explain this and show you how to fix it. Today, we're going to be discussing why people self-sabotage and never reach their full potential. The real reason is something called the static self versus the becoming self. By the end of this video, you will understand why society is keeping you stuck and why being your authentic self is complete bullshit. I'll show you how to live a dream life you never thought someone like you would be able to achieve. Let's get into it. Society as a whole has made us feel like we need to find ourselves. We need to identify who we are and who we are not. Society tells us that we need to fit in. This is an evolutionary process. We need to find our clan, our clique, people who we relate with and people who we are not. Just like in high school. I know I had my own clique of people, my original friends, and there was people who we were not. I was an athlete. I was not a theater person. I was awkward and shy. I was not the popular kid. But in reality, these people and cliques that we identify with are keeping us stuck. Having an identity that is so strong and seeing ourselves as a certain type of person, I am this, I am not this, creates a foundation of our self. And this foundation of self and identity is a trap. We get programmed all the time from an early age to be yourself, never change, be authentic, remember where you came from. When I was younger, I was defined as the rule-obeying, people-pleasing child. I would be quiet, I would not break the rules, I was basically a myth. And my family would always tell me, never change, because that's what they loved about me. But secretly, I didn't love myself. And when it came time to do things that weren't in alignment with myself, like speak up, try new things, be creative, I was immediately flooded with anxiety and would do anything to get out of the situation. I personally identified with someone who was awkward, introverted, overthinking, anxious about everything. I used to literally tell myself,
I don't like people.
that was something I identified with. And I'm being vulnerable with you here and telling you who I identified as because this is something called the static self. When you identify so strongly with something, with a personality trait, a belief, a saying, a hobby, your ego and self becomes static. It becomes cemented. You start to hold on to these parts of yourself and build yourself into something that no longer serves you. And it may not even be true. I was personally guilty of having a cemented self. I identified with the self-sabotaging loops that kept me stuck. If you're someone who sabotages your own success, you're gonna wanna listen to this. When I was in graduate school, I quickly realized that being awkward, introverted, hating people, overthinking, and anxious about everything was not gonna serve me for who I wanted to become. I had to be a professional. I had to be confident. I had to speak to people. So I had a choice. Was I gonna stay stuck and be awkward and uncomfortable? Or was I gonna level up and become the confident professional that I needed to be? This created so much internal conflict that I was sabotaging all of the time. When you try to create a new version of yourself, the old self, the static self, starts to create conflict internally. The reason that you're experiencing internal conflict when you strive for more is because you're leaning into the question of, who am I? When you ask, who am I? This is cementing you into the past. You're pulling from past experiences and you're trying to identify, I am this person, I am not this person, which is the static self. Every time I asked, who am I would get the anxious, awkward, embarrassed version of myself, and it kept me exactly where I was. It is human nature to crave more for yourself. This is how humankind has progressed and evolved throughout the years. We all want more for ourselves. This is normal. But when you identify with who you are It is so difficult to try to become something more, to make that progress that you so desperately seek, because you are stuck with who I am and who I am not. And when you really identify with who you are, keep getting the same exact results. And then when you try to become more, you self-sabotage and pull yourself back down because you're like, that's not who I am. Let's slow down. Another thing that I've been trying to do for years is to become an entrepreneur. But I had this idea in my mind that who I am is a speech language pathologist. I dedicated 6 years of my life to become a speech language pathologist. Who was I to become anything more, to do anything different? Anytime I would try to learn about business or build a business and take action, I would self-sabotage, either mentally or through my actions. I was in a constant loop of desire, sabotage, and guilt. And if you're anything like me, I'm sure you've been there too, anytime you've strived for more. This was a constant pain in my life until I learned from Sam Ovens that there is something called the becoming self. So let's differentiate. The static self. This is someone who thinks from the past. This is when you ask yourself, who am I? The becoming self is when you look to your desired self. You ask yourself, who am I becoming? When you ask yourself, who am I becoming? This empowers you to do things differently. You don't have to think about who you were or who you currently identify as. You get to look into the future. Who are you becoming? What things would you do if you were your future self? This idea of who you are becoming allows you to try new things without the guilt of being like, oh, I'm not that person, or subtracting the imposter syndrome. It completely eliminates the internal conflict and the self-sabotaging. And you might think, that sounds so simple. It really is this simple. It's such a simple switch, and it takes time. But once you ask yourself, who am I becoming, rather than who am I, your entire reality will change. Even right now, I'm living as my self. I'm creating my YouTube channel. I am building my business. Right now, if I identified as who I was, I would just be a speech language pathologist on summer break. I wouldn't be putting in as much effort as I am. And I'm telling you guys, when you identify who you are becoming and every decision is in alignment with who you are becoming and your desired self, you will start to see immediate change. To create a real change in life, you don't start with your identity. You start with a belief. So you believe, I can become an entrepreneur. I can become successful. I can become an artist, an author, whatever that is for you, whatever you want to become, you believe that you can do that. And then you take action. It starts with the belief, you take the action, and then you get the feedback. If this is your first time taking action, like when it was my first time creating a YouTube video, the feedback that you get might make you feel discouraged. You might think, dang, that video didn't get 5 million views and I don't have over 1,000 followers. That's okay. Take that feedback, adjust, and keep your belief. Take more action, get the feedback, adjust, and it keeps going in a cycle. Always strive for who you're becoming, because every time you take action and get the feedback of who you're becoming, you become more. So let's break this down into a 4-step framework that will get you from your static self to your desired becoming self. This is where the magic really happens. Step number 1 always starts with language. You need to catch yourself when you have your static self thoughts or you're speaking as your static self. If you say, I am this, I am not that. If you catch yourself thinking, oh, I'm not going to do that, or I have to do this because I do this every day, that's your static self speaking. Every time I walked into a coffee shop, I had to stop myself from being like,
I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want my coffee.
and start presenting myself in a confident way, ready to talk to anyone, have a conversation. I replaced I am with I am becoming. And this really helps with your belief systems, because sometimes when you say, I am a millionaire and you have no money, your brain is like, yeah, right, you're lying. But if you say, I am becoming a millionaire, you can start taking those actions without feeling guilty or like an imposter. Step 2, ask the right questions daily. Before every single decision, ask yourself, what would my becoming self do? Before every decision daily, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this something that's serving me, or is this just something that I've always done? Step 3, take action before you're ready. No matter how small the action is, do something different. Do something for your becoming self. Action creates identity. Even when the feedback isn't the end goal that you wanted, you still become more. And as for this week, I've been starting really small. I tried a new coffee from a coffee shop rather than getting my typical black coffee. Ryan and I started to play a new sport called pickleball that we've never played before. We even ate dessert before dinner, because you need to question all of your beliefs. And we also took a rest day, even though we work out 6 days a week, and we would never take a rest day on a random Wednesday. We did it anyways. And this leads me to step number 4. Embrace the discomfort. If you're not uncomfortable every day, then you're not growing. You're not making progress towards your becoming self, and you're not questioning your static, cemented identity. That feeling of, oh, this isn't me, or I would never do that, you need to lean into. Do it anyways. If you can't, then you must. At first, all the growth might feel like you're faking it or pretending. But even if you just pretend and take the action anyways, you get the feedback and you're able to refine and take that experience with you. When you get the discomfort and anxious feeling, that's just your old self trying to fight the change. You need to push past that. Break through your ego and your old self, and on the other side are new results you never thought would be possible. On top of that 4-step framework, I do have to mention some obstacles that you might be facing when you try to overcome your static self. When becoming your becoming self, you will feel guilty. And not guilty because you self-sabotage, the old type of guilt you used to feel. Guilty because you are trying new things and becoming more than the people around you. Your family, friends, or coworkers might try to tear you back down. They might say you've changed or different things along those lines. But if they do, that's just validation that you're one step closer to your desired self. Don't let anyone tear you down, including yourself. And here's something else, an obstacle that I wish somebody would have told me. You have permission to change. You have permission to evolve. You can become more. You do not have to be who you have always been. Your identity belongs to you. Your future belongs to you. Your reality is yours. It's not your friends. It's not your family. It's not your degrees. It's not your experiences. It's not anything other than you in this present moment and who you want to become. And the final obstacle you need to know, life is not about finding who you are. It's about creating who you are. People in life will tell you, find yourself. But in actuality, you can create yourself from moment to moment. And this is so empowering. You get to choose who you become in every single decision. You're not stuck with who you've been or what you have done. I went from an awkward, anxious college student to a confident content creator and entrepreneur. And just know that your decisions become easier as you expand. When you're always experimenting with who you are becoming, growth becomes natural and you're just always becoming more. So no more "that's not me" limitations. No more "be your authentic self." Start being who you want to become. Start trying new things and experimenting from every single decision. Start small. Get a different coffee, take a new route home, mix up your morning routine, go wild, whatever it is, try something new that you wouldn't typically do. And tell me in the comments, what's one static self-belief that you are done with? And what's one thing you are going to do differently to become your new self? And remember, we're not here to find out who we are. We are here to create who we are.